again all to fellow Toastmasters and dear guests. Today's session on OiG is called Professional Development for Project Managers. And what an important topic that is. Project management is something that we do all through our life, sometimes by barely noticing it. Even today's session, the OiG was conducted in a project management principles were followed, the planning was done, the resource planning and everything was there. And then we even had a bit of change management today, where we had to change the project, who the presiding officer was. But we managed it beautifully because we follow the instincts, the disciplines that project management is there, and we learn it in various attributes of life. And this is today what we are going to discuss. And today we have our distinguished guest today with us, who will be led by our panel moderator, who will allow to open up the session and introduce them. And let me introduce our panel moderator, who really needs an introduction. But besides being an educator and entrepreneur, he's a certified parliamentarian by the National Associations of Parliamentarians. He served as the district director for the largest district in the world, which for date was 7 countries in the Middle East and included nearly 367 clubs in 88 areas. In the current District 20 structure, he served as the first international director and the regional advisor for Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan. So you all know who I'm talking about. He's none other than DTM Ali Shahbaz Ali. Please join me in welcoming him as our panel moderator with his esteemed guest. Please, over to you, DTM Ali.
Thank you very much, our wonderful Master of Ceremonies, Toastmaster Farouk, and to our acting president, Toastmaster Sana, for coming in that very impromptu fashion for today. As our acting president announced that our president, DTM Khalid, he had to go to the cemetery and he couldn't make it here. But that's otherwise he's mostly here. So you might see him once he's done with the rituals. He might join in. And I'm happy today to be your panel moderator. And let's dive deep into the topic of the day. It's all about project management. It's all about professional development. And we got the right panelist for you to come in front of us, join us in this panel, and share their experiences with all of us. You see, that's the beauty about Toastmasters International. We get experts from across the world of Toastmasters who share their experiences for free without any charges. And that's what we all need, right? There'll be a lot of spark today. Spark as career boost, career change, or maybe some GPS navigation might be set today. Maybe we will recalculate our thoughts when we talk about professional development. So let me introduce our panelists for today. Our first panelist, who I call my mom, she's the only one probably in Toastmasters who has the right to call me any time of the day and scold me since years. And she has been doing that whenever needed. We grew up watching her leadership skills and always in the umbrella of her guidance and in her support. I call her Mama Vicky, but she's known as two different names, DTM Victoria or DTM Vicky. So if you see me saying DTM Vicky, it's still Victoria. Okay. DTM Victoria was our Region 11 advisor covering Britain, Ireland, and the Middle East, whole of Europe, South and West Africa in 2015, 2016. That was one of the biggest regions in the world at that time. She conducted communication and leadership training in Barcelona, Spain, Nice, France, Denmark, Copenhagen, United Kingdom, West Africa, South Africa, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Lebanon, and Jordan. She was a past District 20 governor, better known as director today, of 7 countries in the Middle East. which includes Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. That was in 2013, 2014. DTM Vicky has received DTM Award for the fourth time, and she conducted many personality development workshops on communication, leadership, social etiquette, public speaking for children, teens, adults since 2003 in the Middle East. She has also conducted corporate training on communication, leadership, multicultural intelligence, and management, among many topics for various companies in the Middle East. Vicky was a stage actress in Philippines in the past. That's awesome. She was a recipient of President's Citation Award in 2022 from Toastmasters International and personally received it in Nashville, Tennessee last August 18, 2022. She received the fourth DTM award in March 10, 2023. Last December 8, 2022, she was awarded on the top 50 global inspirational women who look out in 2023 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia by the Prodigy events. And the list goes on and on. We are happy to have DTM Vicky Victoria, who is here with us today. Most welcome, DTM Vicky. And now we move upon to the next panelist, who is like a small younger brother to me. But at times when we discuss things which are beyond our age group. I don't feel the generation gap when I talk to him because we discuss strategies, we discuss politics, we discuss issues of Toastmasters, and so much code of practices. This person comes in as a very mature individual for his age. He's one of the youngest district directors in the world ever. He started Toastmasters when he was a Gavelier, and he still continues to serve the organization. Let me remind you that when he was the district director, the youngest district director in the world of Toastmasters, those days we were suffering when we spoke about districts even being distinguished. And guess what? He came up with this mission of making his district Smedley Distinguished District. And did it happen? Yes, it happened. It was the only district which has been distinguished, Smedley Distinguished in the new structure of District 20. He's a master's student right now. He's a topper when he was doing his bachelor's from University of Bahrain. And he works at the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance as an MBA coordinator. He is the mover and shaker of a new movement in Bahrain. That's the LinkedIn group of people, which is LinkedIn 2.0. We are proud to have DTM Khurram Salman with us. Thank you very much. And now going to the third panelist. I call him the All Snow, and you don't need to guess why I call him the All Snow. He knows the reason. So he's one personality. Whenever I need to talk to somebody in Toastmasters, I know that there will be some logic coming in, logic with humor. And whenever I've called him in situations which causes wildfire in Toastmasters, I speak to him, we laugh about it, and yet we come up with some solution. I still remember when we both were in midst of our career changes, we both had similar ideas. I was discussing with him about our careers. We concluded, let's keep things aside and let's start learning how to play guitar. And I was shocked that he is actually telling me this. And we decided we will learn guitar. I didn't start yet, but I'm sure he took some lessons. A person who is well known for his speeches, for his humor, past district champion when we speak about humorously speaking, and various other public speaking events which he has done. This week, he addressed an audience nearly of 2,000 people minimum. We miss him in Bahrain. He's back in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for joining us, DTM Farhaz Farouk. And now, audience, you have heard a little bit about our three panelists. So imagine what's coming in for the next 1 hour. I would thank our timer for today, Toastmaster Abdullah Hijazi, who is going to time us exactly when it becomes 1 hour from now. So we have so much to discuss. To kick off our discussion, I would like each of the panelists, DTMs all, to make it easy. I'm just going to call them as Vicky, Khurram, and Farhaz, to briefly share their definition of effective project management. What, in your view, are the key elements that contribute to successful project management? Let's start with Vicky Ferrer.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting question, because in project management, there are many tools that we can and we have to use for a successful project. The first thing I think is preparation. Just like in any speech or presentation, we have to really prepare it from the first to the last detail. Secondly, you have to have a good team. It may not be the best team, but a team that really communicates with each other, and with the project manager being able to communicate his vision so that the rest of the team members will be able to connect with the vision and be able to hopefully successfully achieve whatever is supposed to be achieved. And thirdly, I believe that multicultural skills, again, I'm an advocate of multicultural skills. We cannot assume that we always have one nationality in a team wherever you are. So I believe that multicultural skills is very important for the team to really work together. And for me, transparency. Transparency as a project manager, so that all of the team members will not question you, will not doubt you, will not even think twice to follow whatever is in the program and whatever is in the timeline. I think 4 of these, because I've done project management in all these years, and I believe that these are very important elements in creating a good project management team, and at the same time succeeding in it. Thank you very much, Ali.
Thank you, DTM Vicky. And that's what I told you, audience. You can actually take notes today, because it's hard to get panelists of this caliber all in one room to speak about project management for professional development. To continue on key elements that contribute to successful project management, let's hear from DTM Farhaz.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. Honored and privileged to be part of this panel. So what is successful project management? I would just like to add on what DTM Vicky has said, and I'll touch on maybe a couple of areas that has not been. So certainly we need to have the goals of the project understood. Once the goals are understood, we certainly need to put that into a plan and put that into motion. Next stage, monitor and keep following up. And most important step of successful project management, and the one that I would enjoy the most, when you succeed, celebrate. Back to you.
Wow, wow. When you succeed, celebrate. That's a milestone. DTM Khurram, your thoughts on key elements that contribute to successful project management.
Thank you, DTM Ali. I mean, the other two haven't left a whole lot of space, and I have a feeling whoever is the last one is going to repeat that a lot because they've covered most bases. But in PMP, and as a PMP certified project management professional, they talk about a whole lot of factors, and they divide the whole thing into 3 main processes. And if you're able to achieve success in these 3 main processes, you are able to succeed in project management. And the first one is processes, as they call, how are your elements of projects overall. Second one, which I would place as the first one and as the core of it all, is people. So how are you able to manage people? And the third one then comes the environment, because your environment and the context in which you're managing a project plays a huge role in how you're able to contextualize whatever you're leading, because a project in Toastmasters is different from a project of a corporate world. So really it comes down to your of course, whatever they have said, your vision of communication, your goals, all of it is important, but streamlining it in terms of processes, people, and the context of the business that you're a part of. I feel like if you're able to create a synergy between three departments that flows on into all the people and the people who are managing the team, your project is a successful one. And reiterating the part, we tend to forget to enjoy the little milestones. That's why the handoff and the delivery is a very huge part of whenever you're handling projects. So celebrating those little milestones is of extreme importance as well. Back to you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Niti and Khurram. And yes, I forgot to mention this. We have a PMP in within us, and that's like certified project management professional already in the room with us. Process, people, environment. We, that was the best way to put this. I request the audience, if it doesn't disturb flow of your listening skills, you can always put in the chat your name, the club you belong to, if you are a Toastmaster, or if you are non-Toastmasters, your field. So that will help our panelists to answer accordingly. So please feel free to do that. But make sure once you do that, you stop and you also listen to our panelists for the golden experience they're sharing with us. We'll move to the first round of questions now. The first round includes leadership and communication, projects inside and outside of Toastmasters. It also includes balancing agility and structure. Talking about leadership and communication. In project management, what do you think is the most important skill? Communication or leadership? A very common question people do ask. Diti and Vicky, what's your thoughts on that?
Both are actually very important elements in project management, but I would say communication comes first. With communication, you become an effective leader. It's really not the other way around, where you are a leader, but you cannot communicate. And of course, through experience, we all know that communication is the basic foundation for any project, whether it is a project management, whether it is in a personal relationship, right? Family relationship, and the world relationship in total. Communication is something that we all have to learn. And thank God, we are all in Toastmasters because we have honed our skills in communication. I'm always thankful to Toastmasters because I'm not going to be today what I am today as a communicator without learning the skills. So I believe that bottom line, communication skills is the most important for me in developing project management and developing a team, developing the plan. Everything needs communication. So over to you, Ali.
Thanks, Diti and Vicky. That's amazing. And we all agree, right? If it wasn't for Toastmasters, most of us who are Toastmasters here in the audience, we wouldn't be here or at the in this career, whatever we chose, if it wasn't for Toastmasters, for many of us. And of course, non-Toastmasters, if you're not convinced, you will be convinced by the end of the session. Talking about projects inside and outside of Toastmasters. Diti and Khurram, you have managed projects inside and outside of the world of Toastmasters. What are the main differences that you have noticed?
Well, it's interesting because when I did my application for PMP, you have to show at least 5 years of experience of managing projects. And to my surprise, Toastmaster projects are valid projects that you can submit because our projects, if done right, are actually proper project management skills that you can learn from. Put it this way. I'll come to the difference, but I'm talking about the similarities as such. But it's in Toastmasters is like a sandbox where you're coming in and you're able to experiment without affecting your real world as such or your corporate life. Because in real world, there's a lot of consequences and things that if you are not able to deliver projects will follow. In Toastmasters, however, you're able to experiment. You have consequences, yes, but it's not as dire as the corporate world as well. So you experiment, you learn skills for you to be able to effectively deliver projects outside as well. So I don't think people tend to realize the similarities that come in from managing projects here in the world of Toastmasters, as well as in the world outside that you can correlate to. The difference that it really comes to is that here we choose to do it, but in many times in the real world, you may not choose to do it, but you have to do it. So it really then comes to that part where you're working with people who are willing to work, and then working with people whom you have to make willing to work in order to get what you need to get. So, but the correlation between inside and outside, I think it's an underrated tool that we as Toastmasters don't talk about enough, is that you can do so much, you can learn so much here that can work with the world outside of Toastmasters as well.
Beautifully said, Deacon Khurram. Wow. I'm just getting goosebumps listening to our panelists already. Because sometimes a few things are there in our subconscious. We just need to bring it out. And this is the magic of Old is Gold series at Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club. I'm sure many Toastmasters didn't look at it this way, that here we do it by will, but outside, in reality, we are being forced, or it is the way it is. If our manager, CEO, chairman says, this team will be part of so-and-so project, and we are forced to work together. Balancing agility and structure. And this topic was hugely noticed, I would say, during the COVID era, about balancing agility. In the context of project management, how do you balance the need of agility and adaptability with the necessity for a structured approach? And what strategies have you found effective in achieving this balance when we talk about agility and structure? DTM Farhaz, would you shed some light on this?
Certainly, and TTM Ali, I think you pointed out a very apt example, quoting what we went through a few years back with the corona crisis and the lockdowns. And this was unprecedented in the entire generation that I have lived, and I have lived through almost two. This never happened. And so it was something unprecedented. And that's exactly, I think, the first starting point in making this distinction or this decision of how do we balance agility and adaptability. And it is uncertainties. Projects usually are straightforward, and sometimes projects usually are not straightforward. And what happens is we need to understand when they are and when they aren't. And therein lies the decision on which approach that we are going to use. Are we going to go on a very structured approach, a very predictable approach? Or are we going to use an approach whereby we have a bit of agility built in, adaptability? So uncertainty is the first point that really needs to be brought in when it comes to projects. Figure out where the uncertainties are. The second thing is, how complex is the project? Now, if it is a simple project like, say, organizing a farewell for someone, that's a very simple project. But let me take a similar example, but a bit more complex, organizing DTM Khurram Salman's second wedding. Now, that's going to be a very complex project. Sorry, Khurram, I thought I'll just have this dig on you. So complexity of the project is the second factor that we need to think about. And therein, if a project is reasonably simple and straightforward, once again, a structured approach will help. But if the complexity keeps increasing, shift from structure to a more agile and adaptable thing, because you really don't know where the complexities are and where they're going to hit in. The third point to think about is what the stakeholder needs are. If the stakeholders are a structured bunch and they want everything in a methodical manner, then you go completely structured because, hey, at the end of the day, they are the ones who call the shots. They are the ones who give you the money. They are the ones who tell you what to do. So you need to look into that. If, on the other hand, the stakeholder needs seem to be more adaptable and they seem to be also a bit on the fence as to what they need, and so on. Having said this, a hybrid approach is also possible, whereby you have elements of structure and elements of adaptability as well. And usually in practice, that's where we would all end up with a hybrid thing. You start with a structured approach, but as things progress, you see things getting dicey. You move on to a hybrid, and that's when things really happen. If I were to put it in, that's when the magic happens.
Wow, I mean, that's well said. Surprises brings those challenges where magic happens. And I do agree that whenever it comes to second wedding, then definitely complexities will arise. Maybe we can celebrate our anniversaries like second wedding, right? Then it should be fine. It's just the title change. Before we move to the next round, round two, and there's so much in store, I would request the audience to feel free, socialize in the chat, put your name, your club, what country you're from, if you are a Toastmasters. And you can always add your specialization. In case you are not a Toastmasters, you may mention your career. So this will help our panelists to answer accordingly. Now, moving to the second round. And second round is going to be even more interesting. It has the aha movement in project management, multicultural skills, effective communication in project management. Let's talk about aha movement. You are a project management professional. What's the one thing that you found to be an aha moment from your study of certification? DTM Khurram.
Thank you, Timali. I remember this very well because, growing up in the world of Toastmasters, where we deal with people a lot, it was really simple. We make project management a lot more complicated than it needs to be or than it is. But my aha moment came when I realized, and I was going through it and having managed projects before, is that project management is essentially, simply put, people management. That is what it is. So you're managing projects, but there are self projects as well, but in it itself, you're always dealing with people. So project management is people management. And that's where I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. It's something that we know, and like I said, but it's just when you see it on paper and from an esteemed organization, and when you realize it, it just puts so many things into perspective. So yeah, project management is nothing more than people management.
Awesome. Well, that's a very good perspective. Project management is people's management. That's the backbone. Our next question on multicultural skills to DTM Vicky. Why is it important to be equipped with multicultural skills in project management? DTM Vicky.
As early as 2013 to 2014, as you all know, I was a district governor, the second woman district governor, and the first Asian woman who led all these 7 countries. And I believe that I said, whoa, wait, there needs to be a multicultural intelligence appreciation, because I was dealing with all nationalities. I also came to a point that I was the first district governor who introduced the Arab Committee. I don't know if you guys had remember that, because certain nationalities were saying, no, we are one nationality and there shouldn't be another committee. And I said, hey guys, we're here in a temporary place, and these guys are here. This is their home. And so I was explaining to them that we have to appreciate, to acknowledge and validate multicultural skills, because I felt that moving into and getting immersed into different nationalities had helped me a lot. Number 1, gain more friends. Number 2, gain more, collaborative members who were always supportive, because they knew that somebody up there was appreciating their culture and nationality. I'd like to acknowledge one of our participants here, Noor Mohammed, who was my public relation manager. Noor, you're there, right? He was support, and we belong to two different nationalities. We would discuss, sometimes we would argue, but at the end of the day, we knew that we were people. As Khurram Salman was saying, we are humans. And regardless of nationality, sex, religion, or gender, it is all about people and learning and validating and teaching them or teaching each other the skills of multicultural. And from that time on, we all had realized multicultural skills should be included in our trainings. And as you know, everywhere in the world, multicultural skills is one of the foundations in having a successful team.
Wow.
Thank you, Ali, for that.
Thanks a lot, Diti and Vicky. I was just mesmerized thinking of my interactions, which helped me grow as a person, as a leader, with interacting with people across the world. Sometimes it even so happened that some jokes which would work for me didn't work there, and vice versa. Our tube light gets on a little later. Oh, okay, this person was joking. So definitely, I totally agree, and I'm sure everybody does. Panelists, there are questions coming in the chat as well. Maybe you could have a look at them, and later during the session, we can answer some questions as well from the audience. We have that segment coming up soon. Talking about effective communication in project management. DTM Farhaz, you have had extensive experience in project management. Could you share a memorable project management success story where effective communication played a pivotal role? DTM Farhaz.
Certainly, DTM Ali, thank you so much. And I have a bit of a complaint though. Why am I getting all the difficult questions and the long ones? No, just kidding. I'll talk about an experience, a recent experience, the recently concluded annual conference. Now, in that, the way it was structured, we have two committees. One is what we call as the main committee, and that's responsible overall to make sure that the project is done within the time frame, within budget, and they have to make sure they get the logistics sorted out and so on and so forth. And then what they do is they set up something called the technical committee to make sure that the technical content of the conference works and is of high quality. And so this is the first stage. Now, I was lucky to be part of the technical committee. And how this happens is, this is an annual conference. It takes place usually during October of every year. We start work December of every year for the October conference of the next year. And initially, the technical committee meets fortnightly, because these are the initial stage. We try to formulate the theme and what should we be talking about next year, kind of thing, follow up from the current year, because we try to keep some kind of a continuity. So it's a fortnightly meeting. But once we nail those initial questions down, it becomes a weekly meeting of the technical committee. Now, that's well and good. This is just one committee that's meeting weekly, and it's fixed. If you look at our diaries, Wednesdays, 5:30 to 7 p.m. every Wednesday is blocked for the next 10 months from December up to October. That's a fixed thing, and we know it. So that's the first thing. You need to get your meetings on schedule, and you should know what you're going to talk in those meetings. So the agendas are sorted out, and it's very well known. That's first. Now, here we have a technical committee and the main committee. These two committees need to talk to each other. So we have a liaison between these two. Usually it's the chairperson of the technical committee who is the main liaison, but one human being cannot attend meetings for 10 months at a stretch without, it's life. This is life. So we also have deputy chair people who would be supporting the chairperson. So therefore that liaison is important. So that's the next important thing to keep in mind. Regular communication within the team. And if there are bigger teams to report back to or teams to collaborate with, you need liaisons to take place between them. The next important thing is, who are the stakeholders? You need to know, figure out who the stakeholders are and establish communication lines with them. Of course, the main committee is one, sponsors, service providers, and not to forget, because this is a conference, we have speakers. So we had to establish communication channels, and one person cannot do this. So what we have done is we break the conference into sessions, and we get session coordinators who start speaking to the speakers, because we need to make sure the speakers also understand the theme and they speak on the same platform, so to speak. So therefore, we start establishing this early, to the extent that we even tell the speakers what size their presentation should be on, because 16:9 is the standard now, but somebody can send it on the smaller version. We have copyright issues and so on. So that's the other thing. Identify the stakeholders and start establishing regular, formal communications with them. So that's all on the setup. The final thing to keep in mind is, how do you do this communication? Is the weekly meeting enough? Generally, it's not, because of unexpected problems. You need to. So we established informal modes of communication via WhatsApp usually. That's the easiest thing. However, we also use Microsoft Teams and any other things for informal. Formal communication goes in the form of emails, and anything super formal has to go in the form of a written letter signed by the chair people of the respective team. So that's the next thing to think about in communication. Have proper separate formal and informal, and have the platforms and the modes of communication sorted. And once we have these in place, DTMali, what we find is, when communication is sorted out, lots of things falls into place. As DTM Vicky said, communication is the foundation for a good project management team. And as DTM Khurram said, it's managing people, and it's all people, all of this. And the best way to manage people is to communicate. I must tell you, the conference was one of the most successful in the recent past, and I'm really proud to have been part of it. I would say most of that success was due to having all these proper, formal modes of communication set in place, sir. Sorry for a bit of a detailed answer, but you wanted me to share a story, so I'm doing that. Over to you.
And sure, DTM Farhaz, that was a very good example, a very good story to share what I picked, and I'm sure the audience benefited. Formal communication, super formal communication, and most importantly, to make it effective, we are talking about the frequencies of communication. How many times a week? Amazing. This brings me to the next question, DTM Farhaz. After all this was established, effective communication channel, the frequency, what were your challenges in project management? And maybe you could share, how did you deal with them? DTM Farhaz?
Sure. See, I must tell everybody one thing. Complaining helps. Now I got an easy question, and I got the first question now instead of the third question. I'm just kidding, DTM Ali. You know me and my stupid sense of humor. Right. So challenges are quite a lot. Whatever the kind of projects may be it organizing the 10th birthday of your kid, or organizing our second weddings, and as you now nicely put it, organizing our anniversaries, challenges are plenty. Usually the first challenge comes up with setting the scope. Do we know what we really wish to achieve, the goals and the objectives? Do the stakeholders know what they wish to achieve? If the scope does not get properly set, trust me, we are going to have issues later, like, oh, by the way, we forgot to do this. Can we do this? By the way, can you add this to the scope? Which is all well and good, but the next problem comes with not defining the scope, is having unreasonable or unrealistic deadlines and budget, because you set up a budget, and then when the scope keeps increasing, the budget doesn't increase. That puts tremendous pressure on the team, on the project management team and the people. And once you get that going, believe me, the team gets demotivated, stressed out, burnout happens, you start missing deadlines, and then people start getting upset and screaming at everybody. That leads me to the third challenge, conflicts. You have people with differing objectives, differing goals, differing priorities, and of course, getting things done in place. So conflicts are the third challenge that usually would come in to place. The fourth challenge that I usually come across is lack of adequate resources. First and foremost, of course, money. Time is another important resource. Proper equipment. You need proper equipment to successfully do, and usually stakeholders, the ones that usually aren't very good at budgeting, would expect a team to work wonders, but with the minimum amount of resources in terms of equipment, people, time, and so on. So that's the fourth challenge that I would like to put out there, lack of resources. And I personally think all of this happens because of lack of proper communication. So if we can have proper communication from day one, just think about it, scope can be properly defined, unrealistic or unreasonable deadlines and timelines can be sorted out, the conflicts can be fixed, resources can be fixed. So that, I think, is the mother of all challenges. Get the communications in place, and I guess we should be reasonably on our way to having as minimal disruptions as possible. Vijay Mali, over to you.
Wow, Medium Farhaz, this was awesome. It's even getting better, and I'm sure audience are feeling the same. They all are enjoying this. The project scope is the main thing, and any changes to the project scope will only put the project in trouble in terms of resources, finances, the timeline. Very well said, Ditya Farhaz. At times we see that many project management professionals, they have the same constant way of doing projects since very long. And when new juniors come into in the team, some ideas are accepted, some are rejected. So, are there any new strategies that are being introduced in managing projects successfully? Ditya, Vicky.
I like to say that instead of saying new, I'd like to say creative. Because I have done this in trying to merge different nationalities. And I had some creative ideas. For example, I do improvisation. As you probably know or don't know, I'm the founder of the Global Improv and Storytelling Toastmasters Club in Qatar. So what do we do in improv? These are all unrehearsed. We come up with a situation. We say clouds. And you have to create a situation about clouds and tell a story. And each of the team member will include themselves without knowing really what they would say and what they would do. Pretty much in projects where you expect the unexpected. And all of us, well, most of us in the olden days, we were so used to manuals. We were used to, oh, let me check first the manual. Let me check how to nurture a baby, how to feed a baby, Dr. Spock, and blah, blah, blah. In improvisation, you learn it at the very minute and don't have problems and challenges in project management when we really have to deal with it on the spot. How do you do it? We train the people, and in the US now, in the Western world, they are introducing improvisation because they feel that this is needed as another skill for somebody who will be in the company to be able to solve problems in the improvisation way. So I believe that if we could, if you could check more on improvisation, it's not acting, it is putting yourself in a situation just at that very minute, pretty much like impromptu speaking, but dealing with the situation. This is something that I believe has done so much for me in dealing with people, in dealing with situation. I don't panic because I know that I can be creative and do improvisation and come up with the solution. Of course, in consultation with the team members, and we come up with pretty good solutions. And I'm proud that if you guys would check on improvisation, please practice it in your daily lives because it was very helpful. Improvisation and being creative. Thank you, Ali.
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks, Diti and Vicky. So here it's not new, it's more about being creative. If that's what's needed to take the project forward, then why not? And that's how we accept these creative ideas, and maybe sometimes these projects reach in such a height, it becomes a very memorable experience for everybody. Uh, Probably this question has been answered somehow. We spoke about people, process, but is there anything you would like to add, DTM Khurram? What do you think it takes to be a successful project manager?
I think it's very important for you to think of it in terms of a framework. And one of the things that project management comes with is providence of frameworks in which you're able to adopt your project to and contextualize it according to the environment. It was Indeed.com, which is a job hunting site, career building site, that listed down a couple of skills that you need. And this is, keep in mind, this is a site that connects project managers to their relevant careers. And it provided sort of a framework in the terms of skills that are needed for project managers to be successful. And at the core of it, which we've mentioned multiple times, and this won't be the last time we're still mentioning it, is communication. So it comes communication, then leadership, then organization, negotiation, and then team management. What happens is many times we go the opposite way. Instead of inwards, outwards, we would go outwards, inwards, and think, oh, team managers, we have to manage our people. No, it's you have to communicate with how these things are going further. So at the core of it really is communication, any type of communication, right? So we've talked about formal, informal, super formal, and separate communication. It is really, if you're not communicating, you're not managing a project. It's as simple as that, because what are you doing then? And project management is a people exercise. It cannot be worked in silos. So you need to be able to communicate where you are, where you're going, and what are the gaps in between that part. And it really is that, because project management is undertaking an endeavor that delivers a certain result. So where you are now, where would you like to go, and how do you get there? And that plan of action is what project management is. So if you're able to communicate all of these things, whether successful or unsuccessful, it's also important to just be able to communicate properly. That's all.
Wow. Thanks a lot, DTM Khurram. Well, very well said. I remember in an event where uh, things were not going fine. It was a mega event, and one of the team members actually did mention that when we were towards the end of that whole mess, that let me give you my point of view. We actually started from the end towards the beginning. I wish we started from the beginning towards the end. And we all were shocked when this person did make sense by saying this. The only worry was we wish he told us this before. So uh, that's a great point. We move to the next round, three more rounds to go, and then the audience can ask their questions. The next round includes some more interesting points. For example, potential points of failure, advantages of joining Toastmasters as a project management professional, and challenges in stakeholder engagement. You see, audience, we scattered all these topics from the world of project management. Let's talk about potential points of failure. And that happens in many projects. On that note, what could be the potential points of failure as project manager? ETM Vicky.
Again, another very interesting question, because for me, when I am with my team members, we have to all envision, what is our goal? What are we leading to? Are you all convinced that we are all going on the same journey towards that goal? Everybody has to have that feeling, yeah, we want to be behind you, or we want to be with you, we want to be beside you, we want to be in front of you. So this is the whole concept of, are we all together in this? All for one, one for all. That's very important. And failure, it's because they don't believe in your vision. You have not communicated your vision in a way to persuade your team members that, hey guys, this is the best way to go for it. That's number one. Number two, not being able to validate, acknowledge the feelings. As again, Khurram says, hey guys, it's all about people. And if you're not able to validate, acknowledge the feelings of your people, you notice that somebody is not speaking up. You notice that somebody looks depressed. I go there personally and talk to them. What's the matter? How can I help? How can we help you? See, it's not only about a matter of, PMP. Okay, this is all about technical. We have the AI now that's going to be working on it, guys. And we forget there is the human element, which is the most important part of the resources. And so we acknowledge, we validate, we learn how to empathize. And that is another way of getting the best team members. Maybe they're not the best, but they will become the best because you are acknowledging them. And thirdly, failure, again, communication. If you're not communicating, some managers communicate to themselves. They only believe that I can do it and the rest will follow. It doesn't go that way. It's first them and the last is you. You are behind the scene. So I think for me, these three things which I like to avoid, because I don't like to fail. I tend to think about 5 years ahead, what's going to happen and how can I solve that? So that by the time I've started the project, we have already solutions to the challenges that we will be facing, and hopefully we don't face it. So I think from experience, these are things that can cause failure, and please acknowledge the people through communication, empathizing with them, validating them, and finally, you have to persuade them that we are in one vision and one journey, and making them feel that, hey, this is our project. It is not Vicky's project, our project. Thanks to you, Ali, for that beautiful question.
Dear Vicky, that was like project management 101 for everybody. If you ever, there was a new thing added here, which is AI, a very big booming thing in various sectors, public, private. But we heard something here. It's not just the AI, it's empathy. It's people first, recognition, acknowledging them. And that makes projects even more successful. This was really golden. Thanks a lot, DK and Vicky. Now let's move to something where we blend not just project management, various careers that we can think of at Toastmasters International Program. We have an example here with us who started his journey as a Gavelier all the way to one of the top districts in the world, and doing his MBA talks about strategic management, and many qualities come in this one personality, and that is DTM Khurram, being associated with Toastmasters for 25 years. DTM Khurram, do you think it is a great advantage for people from various careers to join Toastmasters International?
Thanks, DTM. Just a slight correction, not 25 years. I mean, I'm not that old. Like 20, like 2021. 2002 is when we started. I know DTM Farhaz would mention a couple of points. But absolutely. See, here's the thing. This is what I've always said, is that hard skills are easy, soft skills are hard. And Toastmasters is an organization where you can really tap into and learn soft skills, because project management, even though you might be handling technical people, and it could be a technical project, but it requires soft skills, and rather than the hard skills for you to be successful. In our pathways, which is a recent introduction about a couple of years ago, it provides so many opportunities for you to be able to work on these things. Your paths such as dynamic leadership, innovative planning, effective communication, team collaboration. There are all these various paths that give you the opportunity to, you can take it in such a way. If your team is not working and you want to motivate them, motivational strategies is something that could work. You want to be able to make sure that you're communicating to people what your vision for the project is. There's a whole path dedicated for it, that is visionary communication. Our 5 core competencies that we work with are very crucial and very similar to the core competencies that PMP advises you to work on as well. And those are public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, and I'm missing a few. I know confidence is one and management is another one. So all of these are, that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't tend to realize that the skills that you're gaining from Toastmasters are the exact skills that you need for successful project management. So absolutely, in any walk of life, if you, like I said, it's a sandbox. It's where you're able to come, experiment, learn, make mistakes, fall, get up, and then so that when you go outside the world of Toastmasters into the corporate world or the real world, as some would say it, you're able to work on the skills that you've gained from this sandbox and beautiful world of Toastmasters that you're able to implement. But so yeah, since hard skills are easy and soft skills are hard, Toastmasters is an organization that gives you those skills and you're able to really implement them in your world of project management.
Thanks, DTM Khurram. You spoke about 5 core competencies and how this relates to so many project management areas across the world, across different projects. That's amazingly said, and it's kind of embedded in our minds and hearts now. Those competencies are very much required for any project that it may be. I don't know why this tough question issue is following DTM Farhaz, but I can't help it. So here we are going to talk about something which is very important again, stakeholder engagement. Projects have many internal, external stakeholders. In your opinion, DTM Farhaz, what are the key challenges project managers face when it comes to stakeholder engagement and communication? And how do you address these challenges?
Actually, that's not a difficult question. So thank you so much for going easy on me. It's not difficult mainly because I think we have addressed this question in different ways in the last half an hour in our various responses. But let me just quickly maybe summarize or list those out. First of all, of course, to understand needs, we need to understand stakeholder needs first. That's the first key thing. The next is to manage stakeholder expectations, especially in a complicated project where we have different types of stakeholders, each with their own agendas. We need to make sure we understand each of these and manage them, because in that lies successful engagement with each of the stakeholders. We cannot have a one-size-fits-all kind of engagement plan for everybody. Each stakeholder's needs are different, so we understand them and we engage with them on their terms. And the reason I say that is because they are the sponsors. They are the ones who are going to provide the money, and so you need to make sure you understand. Next is, of course, to communicate with stakeholders. Now, that's a big challenge, but if we can nail that down, then we get engagement going, so on. Again, don't want to flog a dead horse, as they say. We have touched on this, so I'll quickly move on because there are 2 other key things that are probably something new that I like to throw in over here. The proximity to the stakeholder is something that's important. Like when we are working at the stakeholder's premises or with the main stakeholder face to face across a room or walk across the corridor, it's one way of engagement. But if we are doing a lot of remote work or engaging with them on a remote basis, then that brings a whole load of challenge by itself. So proximity to the stakeholder is something to keep in mind. But I think the biggest problem with stakeholder engagement is to identify relevant stakeholders. And there are 2 aspects to identifying. One is we have to make sure we identify all relevant stakeholders, because by God, if we miss one, they are going to bring the house down. How dare you forget us, kind of thing. And we don't want that to happen because the stakeholders are important. So you need to make sure you identify all. The second thing to make sure is, are these relevant stakeholders and who are not stakeholders? Because sometimes there are people who just like to know, who would like to creep in just for information's sake, just to find things out. If they are not relevant, you will be just wasting your time, effort, and money engaging with them. So that's the second aspect. So identifying stakeholders, make sure you have everybody that's important, and make sure you don't have anyone that shouldn't be on the list to engage, because otherwise, on the one hand, you may fall foul with the right stakeholders, and on the other hand, you waste time, energy, and money engaging with the wrong stakeholders. So those are the key challenges, I would say, to engaging. How would we come across them? Of course, analyze stakeholders, and there's something called stakeholder analysis. Identify them, identify their needs, make sure they are relevant, they are not relevant. So you do something called stakeholder analysis. So that's one first important step. Have a proper communication plan that's agreed upon, and all stakeholders have signed off on it and saying that this is going to work. And so therefore, there is no doubt about how you would engage with them. It could be formal, informal, as I have said earlier, but have that communication plan in place. If you don't have that, that's where you leave room for subjectivity. Oh, you should have told me no, why didn't you? That kind of stuff you can avoid. And the third thing is have a proper engagement plan as well in place, agreed upon, signed off. And with that, I guess usually challenges of stakeholder engagement are put to rest.
Thank you, DTM Farhaz. Stakeholder analysis. Wow. These are some great terms I'm picking up in our workshop today, our panel discussion today. DTM Farhaz, a follow-up question. It might be funny, but do you think experienced Toastmasters can help you manage projects more efficient? DTM Farhaz.
Now, the answer to this question has to be very carefully crafted, because I'm sitting among a group of Toastmasters, one of whom is a PMP certified professional who's also a Toastmaster, who's already told us it helped me in my PMP journey. Being Toastmasters helped me, so I need to be careful. Of course, the answer to this is yes, and I say that sincerely. Yes, I personally think yes. Toastmasters is definitely going to help. Skills we learn here are definitely going to help. I did hear out what DTM Khurram said about Toastmasters and the skills. Permit me to add one thing in particular. We have, as you all know, as us Toastmasters know, we have 11 paths. One of them is called innovative planning, and this path is specifically designed to help project managers hone their project management skills. And there are various projects, and as we all Toastmasters know, there are 5 levels and what have you. There is one particular project in level 4 of this path, which is called Manage Projects Successfully. If we look at this manual, I'm sure this manual is a 101, if not higher, version of a project management course. It's got everything in it. How do you communicate? How do you lead? How do you identify stakeholders? It's also given, there are templates for project planning, communication planning. That one simple manual, I think hardly 25, 30 pages, is a crash course on project management. So Toastmasters, in addition to all the skills that we learn, dealing with people, ability to think impromptu, and all of those nice things, manage time, read objectives and understand things. In addition to that, we also have a part dedicated to training project management professionals. And just one example of a project in this part itself shows how much Toastmasters can actually be successful project managers. And I see that DTM Khurram also put a nice comment in the chat, and with his permission, let me read it out. He pointed out the club, area, division, and district success plans is a great example of how Toastmasters manages project management as well. So thank you so much, DTM Khurram, for putting this in, and he's put another comment as well. Not going to read it, it's out there. So thanks so much. So DTM Ali, with your permission and apologies, but I just drifted away. But I thought I should bring this point.
Thanks a lot, DTM Farhaz. We admire many leaders actually. They do club contests, area contests, division contests, district conference every year with zero balance. We have nothing 6 months before, 8 months before, and then we do these mega events in Toastmasters alone. At times, we even don't know who our team members will be. We look for team members, we randomly pick them up, and then we have our team meetings with nothing, zero budget. And then we make memorable events. And as I said in the beginning, it's all there in our subconscious. We are doing project management in a way, but we don't realize it. DTM Vicky, What are some lessons you have learned from successfully or unsuccessfully managing projects? Detail Vicky.
You always have interesting questions for me. If DTM Farhaz is complaining about complicated questions, I would say you have interesting questions for me. One lesson learned is always be open-minded. Never have an inflated ego. You know, when you have that inflated ego and you don't accept other points of view, nothing will work. So I came into that leadership career, may say, having an open-minded and not taking things personally. One leader came to me and said, "You know, you're the first woman." He happens to be from the Indian community, and said, "You're the first woman who will be my leader. Do you know what that means to me?" And I didn't take it personally. I took it as a joke, but later on we became the best of friends, and he became my extended family. Failure is not being flexible. I always also make sure that I contact them on a one-on-one basis. Sometimes phone calls, and sometimes happy birthday, and updating with each other the news. It doesn't have to be all about Toastmasters. It can be on a personal level, like me and Ali. Like as he says, I scold him like a mother because I feel that, hey, I have the right to do this to you. I'm your mother. And so we help each other. I also learned from him. As a leader, you don't see yourself as a leader. You see yourself as somebody who is guiding somebody else, and the others are also guiding you. So it's not them learning from you. It's a two-way thing. You learn from each other. I've been in Toastmasters since 1998. And why are people asking me, why are you still there? Well, hello, I'm a vintage Toastmaster, but not only as a vintage Toastmaster, I learned so much until today. And as Khurram would say, pathways. Everybody was rejecting pathways, but here we are because we are open-minded. We are willing to learn. Learning is nonstop until I die. And this is something that we as leaders, as communicators should learn. Let's be open about everything, and more blessings will come to you and more experience. This is what I think, Ali. I'm not going to scold you tonight.
Thanks a lot, DTM Vicky. You have the right to scold me at any time, 24/7. But these are again some golden words, experience being shared after all these years of experience. Empathy is really required to make projects successful. At times, let's talk about club affairs, membership dues. We call our member just to make sure the member renews. But like that, we don't call the member the whole year. So, so this is just an example which clicked in my mind when we talk about project management. Simple examples that makes us better project team member or project managers. Going to common pitfalls in project management. From your experience, DTM Khurram, what are the common pitfalls or misconceptions about project management that you have encountered? And how can aspiring project manager avoid them? DTM Khurram.
Thank you, DTM Ali. That the question is close to my heart because you're part of successful projects and you talk about them, but I think it's equally important to talk about the projects that were not so successful that you might have been leading or that you were a part of. So because circling back to what DTM Vicky said as well, it's at times one of the major pitfalls is that project managers are not able to separate themselves from the project that they're leading. So that's where the inflated ego sense of self comes in. You have to realize that you as a leader of a project are not your project. So you have to be able to delegate, you have to be able to trust the people, and when people don't do that, that's where a lot of pitfalls really come in. And a very important thing which we have been circling around is empathy, and a term in project management that really comes is emotional intelligence, which circles empathy and much more. So it's emotional intelligence and the lack of that people are not able to, have successful projects. So if you are is an aspiring project manager, you have to separate yourself from the work. You have to separate yourself as you, as your team, and then the work that needs to be done. And a lot of people at times think, oh, and this is one of the things that I felt when I was a district director and division directors, is that people whom I'm leading are twice my age. So if there's a task that they have to do, they would do it. But until and unless I would follow up, the task would not get done. And this is something DTM Farhaz talked about earlier as well, is that we tend to delegate tasks and then forget about it. Absolutely not. You have to make sure that it's your job as a project leader is not really to get down to the nitty-gritties and get the things done, but it's to make sure that the things are getting done. So follow up basically is your job description. So you need to be able to follow up, let go of your ego, trust the people. I think trust element and emotional intelligence plays a huge part of it. Last point in this is be very clear of where you're headed. A lot of times, if you are leading a project and you take a step back and you just ask your team, where are we headed? If they all give you the same answer, then you've done your job well. But if they all give you a different answer, then there's a huge gap. So that scope creep is another technical terminology that comes in. Is I feel like I'm the technical guy in terms of project methodologies and terminologies. But if your scope that you have agreed on, at times it grows way bigger than whatever anybody signed up for. So you have to make sure all of your team knows where they're headed at any given point in time. You need to be able to call somebody and check, guys, where are we headed? And if they give you the answer that you think they would, and everybody gives that, then you're in the right direction. But yeah, there's a couple of pitfalls that aspiring project managers need to be able to avoid and think of. Back to you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, DTM Khurram. Yes, understanding the scope, emotional intelligence, great keywords to share with the audience. Awesome. Last three questions each from my side, and then we can shift to audiences if they have any questions. DTM Wiki was speaking about one golden rule about being in mega projects with people from all walks of life, diversity, multicultural team. DTM Wiki, you have worked on projects in diverse cultural contexts. How do cultural differences impact project management? And what strategies do you employ to ensure effective collaboration in multicultural teams? DTM Wiki.
I feel that dealing with multicultural nationalities is an asset. Okay, so sometimes you say, oh, you're in a oh my God, that may be so challenging. It is not, because I feel that different opinions from different cultural backgrounds makes the solution even far better, because they have their own points of view, which we've never thought of before. And they come up with sometimes with excellent or fantastic solutions that you could never have thought of. So we meet, and I really specifically choose different nationalities. We have a diverse team. We meet and we ask each other, in your opinion, what kind of solution would you be suggesting if you were the project manager? And we do that until all of us come up with the best solution in solving challenges. Believe me, reach out to other nationalities. Every time I go to the UK and visit my daughter, you know what's the first thing I look for? An Indian restaurant, because that is my favorite. So this is how immersed I am. I don't look for Filipino food, nor do I look for Western food. I look for Indian food because I've been with the Indian nationality for such a long time in Qatar that I appreciate the culture, the language, tradition. And so are the other nationalities, Arab nationality. I am so privileged to be amongst this multicultural background, which maybe others don't have the privilege. So we have to be thankful for that and take advantage. Reach out to other communities. Go and attend their get-togethers, their celebrations. That is the only time you'll be able to learn how and appreciate the other cultural backgrounds. And believe me, they will always respect you and always be loyal to you because of your interest in them as a person, as a family, as a society? Thanks to you, Ali. Another interesting question.
Wow. We just got a tip here. I mean, just walk into a restaurant to feel cultural differences and bridge them, right? All we need to do is just step in, and that would benefit in our corporate life. It's just not walking into a restaurant, but it's actually learning something new. Awesome. Thanks a lot, DTM. DTM Khurram, could you share a project management lesson you learned the hard way? And what advice would you give to project managers to prevent similar issues? DTM Khurram.
Yes. So remember we talked about separating yourself from the project that you're leading? That's me. That's my example. So many a times I had a bit of difficulty in being able to, this is many years ago, is that I would only keep the project close to my heart and then the people whom I would trust and not let people in. And I realized that's a lot of pressure to take on myself and the people whom I trust, because even though they're doing it for themselves and for myself, but it's not fair. And you need to be able to put in people who are able to, trust. And it was during my area contest when I had gotten people in, and the people who surprised me were the people whom I had not worked with up before, because our communication was very clear. It's like, hey, this is what I'm looking for from you. Are you able to deliver it? And they exceeded the expectations that I had. So it's really about the hard way that I learned is that you got to be able to, let go and trust people. And you gotta give them the benefit of the doubt. Not everybody's out to get you as such. And this is what the organization is well. I'll just mention 4 points real quick in terms of this as well, which I feel can really help. And in this process is something that I've learned is that coffee over conflict is something that I've always said. You've got to be able to meet people over coffee over conflicts. One thing that we don't do enough, and we should, is that we need to catch our teams doing something right. We're very quick to catch them doing something wrong. Hey, you did that wrong, you did that wrong. But we don't catch them doing things that are right. And having intro, retro, respective meetings. What I mean by that is you need to be able to look at where you are in the past, how far you've come, and then look to the future. So intro, retro, respective there's no terminology. This is my term that I put it as such. And this is something that DTM Farhaz mentioned as well, that I would really like and encourage that behavior is to celebrate the little big things, because we don't tend to do that enough. So we need to be able to celebrate anything that we can in terms of our achievement of the project. Back to you.
Thanks a lot. DTM Khurram, I can relate so much to coffee over conflict because that's what we have done over the years, and that really helps. And intro, retrospective, that's a new thing. And definitely, I will always think, I will ponder more on this. Talking about celebrating the right things, that's kind of less, but we need to do that instead of always criticizing, which is also important. But celebrating for the right reasons is equivalent as well. The last question, since we already hit red, before we go to the audience questions for next 5 minutes, DTM Farhaz, as someone who has had a successful career in project management, what role do you see mentorship playing in grooming the next generation of project managers? And how can the organization promote mentorship programs effectively? DTM Farhaz.
Thank you for that interesting question. Now the interesting questions are coming to me. So DTM Vicky, the difficult questions are coming over to you. Mentoring, DTM Ali, is not just something that's restricted to project management. I personally am a big believer in the power of mentoring, power of mentorship, getting right mentors in for almost anything and everything in life. This is something I picked up a lot during my Toastmasters years and, of course, in my career in banking and finance back in the days and as an auditor. Every single time that I wanted to do something right, if I had a good mentor, I used to get it right. Otherwise, I used to be walking, as they say, like blind as a bat. Now, when we focus on project management itself, needless to say, the same benefits that a good mentorship program can offer anything will definitely flow into mentorship. Now, how do organizations harness the power of mentoring and mentorship in grooming their next line of leaders, their next line of project managers, and so on? It is imperative. I don't know why organizations haven't figured out up to now that it is in their best interest that they actually harness the power of mentors, be it project management or be it in anything else that they do. Mentoring as a tool has to be introduced. I was lucky to be part of a mentoring panel of a leading company over here in Sri Lanka. And one thing that I learned from my experience over there in that mentor panel is this organization went through a selection process to make sure they had the right mentor pool for the skill that they wanted mentored. And they made sure that they matched mentees, proteges. We use the word mentees quite a lot in Toastmasters, but they made sure they matched the right protege with the right mentor depending on the skill that they wanted developed. Now, organizations should try to do this a lot more. This was a one-off thing that happened, and I thought it's not prevalent in Sri Lanka until I got an invitation by a second organization to join their mentor pool as well. So, which means the idea is slowly catching up. And I personally think the speed of catching up is not as fast as it should be. The faster this happens, the better. Organizations can definitely benefit from the knowledge and experience of mentors and use this as a way of transferring that knowledge and skills to their next line of managers, be it in their technical teams or be it in project management. This needs to be something that is done. And I saw it successfully working in both of my clients. And I would like to call everybody, please go ahead and do it. And if you want to, there are 3 good people over here. You can call us first to be part of your project management mentor pool, and we will rope DTM Ali also in. And here you go. Sorry for that quick sales pitch as well, but I thought it's important to show that there is something out there and it actually works. And the sooner organizations get this in, the better. Over to you, DTM.
Thanks a lot, DTM. Farhaz, yes, mentor-protege relationship is very important, and that helps in success of projects, events, and we totally agree on this. Thank you, timer. So we are done with this session, and timer can stop showing red and start counting for the 5 minutes. Just shows why the red light when the 5 minutes are up. We'll move to some rapid fire round now, where we'll expect quick answers from our panelists. I'll just read out the questions that I see on the chat. Feel free to send me more. Some questions are long, so I will try to read them as fast as possible. Timer, you could stop showing the red color. Thank you. There's a question from Toastmaster Vidal to Toastmaster to DTM Vicky. How can communication build harmony within the team members with the presence of a person difficult to deal with, and all trainings and intervention failed, and the project doesn't move forward due to this person? DTM Vicky.
I had that same experience when I was the district governor. And there was this person who was called the untouchable, because he would always send the longest emails and all about his complaints and his grudges and his being disappointed with the different leaders. And I happened to receive 3 emails from him. So I called him and I said, again, coffee over conflict. Hey, let's have some dosa. And he says, what dosa? I said, yes. So we went out, had some dosa, and we started talking about things that were his grudges, validating, acknowledging his feelings. And he said, nobody was replying to me. Nobody was answering me. Well, because, they have made like an agreement that nobody deals with him because he's the untouchable. So we became the best of friends. And now he has been part of always of my team, contributing, because I happen to just acknowledge and validate. It's not because of me, but this is a method that everybody should use. I made him part of my team. And believe me, he gave always the best suggestions, the best recommendations that I could never forget him until today. He's still a close friend of mine. There may be different levels of difficulty, but always having this personal touch and making sure that you validate this person always makes a big difference. Again, as Khurram, I teach, I give workshops on emotional intelligence. And I think one of the most important thing is having a high emotional intelligence when you want to become a leader, because this really helps with the people you are dealing with. Don't expect that you will always have the easiest people to deal with. Always expect that you will have the most difficult, because once you have the most difficult people, hey, you can live in this world because you can deal with the most difficult people in this world. Over to you, Ali.
Thanks a lot, DT and Vicky. That's a total different perspective. And I like dosa over conflict as well. How about dosa and coffee over conflicts? That will be a full stack. The next question is for DTM Khurram from uh, DTM Pitambar Nair. Will personal brand affect stakeholders' commitments, especially in multicultural environments? DTM Khurram?
Absolutely. I mean, as much as you would like them not to affect, it does. It is the reality of things. So, see, personal brand is a perception that people have of you, and the perception that you want people to have of you as well overall. So, in a multicultural environment where you have different people coming in with different beliefs, different set of values, it's very important that that's why the project initiation stage, where you're basically just brainstorming and getting together, it is very important that you get together on the same page. And so in project management terms, it's called a project charter, right? Where you sign off, all the main stakeholders sign off. And at times of conflict, you refer back to that project charter because that's something that you agreed on. It's not a set in stone sort of document, but it is definitely a document where, you can refer back to in times of conflict, in times where you feel like the commitment is wavering and you're not able to do it. And you've got to know when to hang the cape as well. It's very important in these sorts of situations as well. So absolutely, your personal brand affects it in different stakeholder engagement, in multicultural environments. The important thing is to realize where you're headed. The set of goals is there's no room for ambiguity in terms of where you're headed. As long as that's clear, other things usually tend to fall in place, but it's not as simple as that, as we already know. Back to you.
Thanks, DTM Khurram. The next question comes from a PMP aspirant, and it's open to anybody from the team. The question comes from Toastmaster Mamta. How to manage conflict between project management and team member, project manager and team member who has ego conflict? How to normalize with them? It's kind of answered before, but any panelist who wants to go? Anyone? DTM Khurram?
No, I was pointing to DTM Farhaz. I'm like,
DTM Farhaz?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this was question. I think this was what DTM Vicky touched on in the previous response to the previous question. It's exactly the same. So, ego needs to be understood. Yes, human beings, every single one of us, whether we like it or not, have our own little egos, and we need to know that everybody else also will have. The question of ego is not answered if we feel that the other person is the one with the ego and not us. So, as they always say, whenever we point a finger at someone, there's 3 or 4 pointing back at us. So, in addition to what DTM Vicky said, the only advice I can give to add to this is, if there is an ego issue, let's see where this thing lies, and if we can kind of share the blame, therein lies the starting point to resolving that issue. And once we get to that position, trust me, finger pointing can stop, and we can actually start getting to the bottom of what the root cause of the problem is. And as we get along, we will find out that whatever we were pointing fingers at was never an issue in the first place. It was just perhaps some minor misunderstanding or a minor lack of communication or what have you. So that's one thing I thought I can add to what DTM Vicky said, but otherwise I think her response still stands. I would also love to have dosa over a conflict. I enjoy a cup of coffee as well. And hey, being Sri Lankan, may I also promote a cup of tea over a conflict?
Oh yeah, how can you forget tea over conflicts, especially the Ceylon tea from Sri Lanka? Thanks, DTM Farhaz. One last question in the interest of time and audience. You can keep your questions coming in, and probably the panelists can reply to you in the chat, or you can direct it to them personally. The last question is from Toastmaster Beijing. How can a project manager manage timelines and milestones if stakeholders, owners keep changing their minds about the project scope itself? So, since DTM Khurram spoke about project scope, maybe you could answer this question, DTM Khurram.
Absolutely. I mean, it really is context based. From my situation to what this Master Biji might be experiencing is completely different. And in a corporate context, it becomes different. In a voluntary context, it becomes different. But how do you keep managing the time? See, that's where the importance of the project charter comes in. But if you're not respecting the charter, then there are other issues to be addressed first before you can address this issue, right? So it's very important that the agreed set of deliverables that are agreed on is something that we stick to. If people, the powers that may be, are changing it, then that it in itself is a separate issue that needs to be addressed, and it's a conflict at that point in time. And once again, it's really important to sit down and be like, guys, look, this is what's happening. Project management is never all about, us singing kumbaya. I know we've talked about the very happy things about it, but project management is people management, and people have conflicts, people have egos, and there's a lot of these sorts of things that really come in, and we didn't get a chance to touch upon it as much, but it really is context based. So the best solution, if you have a mentor, you can approach them. If that project has been done before, you can approach them as well. And at a certain point in time, you have to, put your foot down and be like, guys, we need to stop this if the project scope keeps increasing. And if you are in a position to at times step back, you've got to take that step back as well. You need to know how to, if a conflict is happening, you need to know till when can you do this, right? But once again, like I said, in a corporate context, you may not have the option to do it. So many times the best way forward is the way through. So you just have to keep your head down. It's not advisable. It's not good for your mental health, but that's why you got to celebrate things afterwards. So go on a vacation to Bahamas or become a district director, and then you get to go. But so like, but but I'm just pointing it out that it's important that you know when to stop putting in the efforts if they're not yielding any results as such. But yeah, hopefully anybody in that situation gets out of it.
Thanks a lot, DTM Khurram. Yes, we always see milestones at the end of the tunnel. That's a pin which I got from Bahamas. It's here. So I had my time in Bahamas in a very clean fashion. So, ladies and gentlemen, our discussion today has been incredibly insightful. Thanks to our knowledgeable panelists, DTMs, Vicky, Khurram, and Farhaz. We explored the intricacies of project management, learned valuable lessons, and gained deeper understanding of challenges and opportunities this field offers. As we conclude, I encourage you all to reflect on the wisdom shared today and apply it in our own professional journeys. Thank you for joining the Old and Gold series at Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club today. I noticed we were 30 and then we moved down to 18 towards the end. Let us spend few more minutes to recognize our panelists. I give the floor now to our wonderful Master of Ceremonies, Toastmaster Farouk.